Let's talk about water because today is World Water Day. The Ghana Statistical Service has disclosed that 1 in every 5 persons in Ghana, which accounts for 19% of the population, did not have sufficient drinking water according to the 2022 Ghana Demographic and Health Survey. The deficiency varies significantly across regions, with the northern region topping the list, where 1 in every 3 persons, equating to 32%, lacks adequate drinking water. And we have the outcome of this demographic and health survey that the Ghana Statistical Service put together relating to the issue of water. So there you have it, 1 in 5 persons in the household population do not have enough drinking water, and that accounts for over 19% of the entire population. And they've broken it down to national, to northeast, northern region, and of course the upper west region. So the national is 6.5% percentage of population that travel more than 30 minutes for water. And then for the northeast, 27%, northern region 18%, and then it goes on and on, meaning that in the northeast region, 27% they have to travel more than 30 minutes in search of water. Now this afternoon, we'll have a conversation with stakeholders in the water sanitation space about the current water sanitation across the country. But first, what is the situation in the northern region? Remember that the Member of Parliament for Tamale South, Haruna Iddrisu, read a statement on the floor of Parliament, drawing attention to the fact that water has become more scarce, especially in the northern region, where people are now resorting to other means to have access to what he wants to describe as, quality water. My colleague Martina Bugri has more in the following report.
Several communities in the northern region are currently grappling with acute water shortage. The sun continues to heat up to 42 degrees in certain days and 40 degrees most of the days. This has compelled several dams to dry up. The few water centers look like market space because of the huge numbers that converge to fetch water.
Behind me is the Bolenga Dam. This dam is currently serving over 18 communities whose dams are all dry.
Beyond the 18 communities the Bolenga Dam serves, it also serves several communities in the Tamale metropolis, especially peri-urban Tamale. Abdul Shakun is from Nyankpala, and their duty is to fetch water for his family.
We are coming from Nyankpala, so we are going to fetch the water from the house. So we are going to use it for cooking and bathing. So that is how we are coming from here to fetch the water.
So why? There's no water around Nyankpala. Why did you travel this far?
Oh, our dumps are finished, so we cannot get clean water. So that is why we are coming here.
Okay, so when you send the water, how do you treat it?
We are just going to pour it like that for bathing and cooking. Also, we are drinking.
So you drink the water as well?
Yes.
But you don't treat it? You don't fear that you could get disease?
Yes.
Right here, people are walking in and out of the water. We do not know what they are putting into the water. But these people will send this water and people will buy, sometimes untreated or boiled, and people drink. If we had people who were taking a bath, but this is the water that most people in northern region currently drink.
Alasan Salma says there are worms in the water, but they do not have a choice.
Take the water going to home. The water is not nice, so you put the pot, so you do the aloe. So the dirty water is down, the pure water is up. You take the water, the maggots is there. So water, you drink the water. The maggot is disturbing, so it's destroying your stomach or anybody.
For these women, the distance and time spent in search of water is a burden.
ta kana ta to kom ma kulan tana jure gaswa bi kom kana jana wishi ko dan nan to da su kom ma dan kunya ta kola
whether the water is pulsed or not. These people have to rely on this water for every domestic use. People even drink right at the dam. There are fears that there could be a possible outbreak of waterborne disease in the northern region. For joining us, Martina Kofi reporting.
All right, so that is the situation in the northern region. I guess the same situation can be said in the other parts of the country, even sometimes here in the Greater Accra region, where access to water for some people is quite a very difficult, adventure. Now, let me bring in the General Manager in charge of Public Relations with the Ghana Water Company, Mr. Stanley Mate. Mr. Mate, you're welcome to the pulse here on Joy News.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
And let me say a happy World Water Day to you, if there's something like that.
Thank you very much, and I wish you same.
All right. Our first report about the challenge people go through in having access to what they even want to describe as potable water, especially in the northern region of Tamale, is quite bad. I mean, to the extent that in some cases they are having to struggle for water with sometimes animals. Let's start from the northern region. At this time, it's difficult. The Member of Parliament for Tamale South brought it to the attention of the Speaker on the floor and demanded urgent action because it is becoming a crisis there. What is the Ghana Water Company's reading of the situation, and what have you done about it?
Okay, thank you very much. I think you will all know that water provision has been at the heart of management of Ghana Water Company Limited, and we do not leave any stone unturned to ensure that our people get potable water at any time. There's a lot being done in the northern region, not the northern region, but all the northern regions, Upper East, Upper West, Savannah, northern LT regions. There's a lot being done in those areas. And so when the Member of Parliament raised it, we still had to go down to check. So top management of Ghana Water Company Limited traveled to the north. We visited all the chiefs. We visited the regional minister. We went into the areas. We assessed the situation. We told them the plans for the area, the short-term plans, the medium-term plans, the long-term plans. And with the short-term plans, the work has started in earnest to ensure that no stone is left unturned, to ensure that the people of Tamale get access to potable water and to get it regularly. One other aspect is that we are our own enemy. Okay, we are our own enemy. Our main line, I'll start from the Sunwini in the Nawuni River, which affects the quality of the raw water of the raw water in Nawuni. So we have our treatment plant at Talon, where we extract water from the Nawuni River to treat and then pump into the people of Tamale. Now, when the wind alluvial soil, it turbines the water, and it becomes very difficult for us to get adequate water for the people. That is one of the issues. Now, if we are pumping water into town, we pump through transmission line. Now, what happens is that along the transmission line, there are a lot of villages. And what they do is to punch the transmission line for water to just fill so that they can fetch to feed their animals and sometimes their farms. When we come across some of these things, we need to shut down the entire treatment plant and to have it repaired. You can imagine if every week you have to shut down a day or two to repair some of these perforations on the transmission pipeline. It affects the volumes of water that goes into the Tamale metropolis, and it affects the pressures as well. We need to be producing consistently and constantly to ensure that pressures are built up to go into the nook and cranny of the Tamale metropolis. But when some of these things occur, it becomes very difficult for us to build the pressures enough to reach everywhere.
But Mr. Maite, is the dryness of the place also a factor, especially for water bodies that serve as your primary source?
Yes, I'm coming. I'm building my argument. But like you said, yes, that is one of the factors. Now, most trees that give the Nawuni River some cover have all been cut down. And even in that area, there's a lot of vast lands that are very plain. There's no forest cover, or there's no trees giving the water body some cover. Mm-hmm. So the rate of evaporation is very high during the dry season. So we are faced with a lot of challenges trying to get enough water to treat for the people. Now, so these are the challenges that we face in that area.
Right.
I wouldn't want to go into everything, but one of our main challenges is the fact that the NETCO is unable to give us consistent power. Okay, so 2 or 3 power outages in a day renders us almost incapable of producing a whole day. So we lose a whole day treatment when we get like 2 or 3 power outages. Okay, this is one of the challenges, but we are doing everything possible. We are working with NETCO to ensure that they are able to give us enough power or consistent power to enable us also produce consistently and constantly so that we can get water to the people.
And what are they telling you? What is NETCO telling you about their inability to ensure reliable power supply for your plants?
Yes. We are all government agencies. We all have challenges. We are sister agencies. We appreciate ourselves. We appreciate the challenges that we all go through. So we are working together to ensure that the best is done so that at least we can do that. So there's some collaboration going on to ensure that there's constant flow of power. So, there are lots of things that we're also doing, including public education to ensure that the people appreciate the challenges that we go through.
Right.
And especially what they do to affect our production. You understand? So that they resist from such antisocial behaviors, and then we can help them. We keep saying that one of our slogans is that you have the GWCL to help you. Okay, help GWCL to help you. Now you have to help us by managing and maintaining our water bodies clean. Mm-hmm. So we have clean raw water source. We have to stop the perforations and puncturing of the transmission lines. We have to stop illegal connections. We have to stop all the antisocial attitudes or behaviors against the GWCL. Then we can also help you well. Assuming we don't have to shut down like once or twice in a week just to repair a perforated pipeline, we still can build on the pressures for water to get to the people. So it's essential that we all support each other so that things will go well, and then we can serve them and serve them effectively. All right.
So Mr. Maite, I guess that clearly, this call you are making is also a national call, because the national picture may also not be 100% rich, because in recent weeks you have spoken about the impact of illegal mining, especially how it is affecting the production of water. Last month, for example, the indication was that even for the central region, you were not going to be in a position to give them 100% coverage. You were going to cut it down by 30%. All this advocacy that you've done in months, in years gone by, has there been any improvement, or the situation is getting worse, especially as you work to bring us quality water?
The line is breaking. It's a bit difficult for me to hear you. Hello?
Yes, Mr. Maite, I was asking about all the advocacy you've done in the months, years gone by. I mean, the issues about the activities of illegal mining, how that is affecting you, and the other factors that is making it difficult for you to operate and work at your full capacity. And whether all these advocacies that you've done, has it witnessed improvement, or the situation is getting even worse?
Okay, I wouldn't say that there hasn't been improvement at all, and I wouldn't say that everything is perfect. Okay, now it's good for us to continue with the advocacy so that we can have a perfect situation, but currently I can't describe it as a perfect situation. And I think that we should continue with the public advocacy, we should continue with the public education, we should continue with everything that we are doing to ensure that our water bodies are kept clean. For us to have constant and consistent flow of water for our people. Okay, I think we need to continue the education. We don't need to relent in the effort or whatever we started a few years back. We need to continue with it, and we don't have to leave it alone to some of the stakeholders. Everybody is a stakeholder. Every citizen of Ghana has a role to play. You have a role to play. I have a role to play. Let us all work effectively to ensure that our water bodies are kept clean, and then we can also produce enough water for the people. And most especially the tariff is a tariff that is also killing people.
Right.
The cost of production is high as a result of the pollution of our water bodies. It's going to affect all of us. If the pollution ceases, we are going to have clean water, chemical usage, and everything will be minimal, and then it will impact positively on the tariffs. So it's essential that if we are complaining about high tariffs, let us all work together and stop the pollution of our river bodies so that we can have water at a very low cost.
And what about the payment of water bills? Improvements in that area too?
Yes, we are doing well. You know, since last year, we have been mobilizing revenue, so we have been on our customers, and it's a bit difficult, you know, when you realize that people do not have money, but you still will have to chase them for your money. People are paying because we are also not giving any sort of cent. We are really, really on them. They need to pay, but we are also doing well. We are also working hard to ensure that they have access to water. Then it also becomes easier for them to pay. So there's improvement in all quarters, but we expect a better improvement than we are seeing now. We expect more from the people, and I'm sure they also expect more from us. So we all need to work hard and to ensure that there's some balance at the end of it all, and then all these problems will see helping.
Right, Mr. Martin, before I let you go, finally, and this morning we were told that you intend to spill water from the Wager Dam. If you tell us why, and whether people who are sensitizing to move out, whether they are complying.
Okay, so one media house intercepted our internal memo, which is one of the first processes before spillage is done, and then they put it out. So it is imminent. It is imminent that we will spill water, but the time is not due yet. And before we spill water, excess water from the dam, we need to follow a certain protocol. And we are in the process, but they jumped the gun and put our internal memo out. I will not say that we are not going to spill, but at this time, it is not right yet for us to say that we are going to spill. But whatever the case is, we spill because we have been spilling every year. Now we can't say we will spill or we will spill because of the challenges that we have with, let's say, climate change and all that. As I speak to you, we have been to the source of the Denison River. We are looking at the levels and to see whether the possibility of having high levels in the dam or not. So these are some of the things that we need to do, and we check these things on daily and on weekly basis, so that when everything is okay and when everything is such that we are expecting more water into the system, then we can start minimal spillage and then be monitoring the levels the same, so it don't cause any challenges within the system. The other aspect is to liaise with the municipal assembly so that they play their role by ensuring that people who live on the buffer zones are cleared. Okay, all structures are cleared, and then especially at the estuary, we need to dredge some areas to ensure that there is free flow of water into the sea when we start filling.
Right.
There is a rubbish dam that has been created along the coast of the river, which is also blocking the river. Now, when it blocks the river and the spillage, the water could divert into other areas. So we are still having a chat with them to see how we can clear the dam and create a very good channel for the water to flow into the sea. So all these things are in the process. We need to inform all the people living around to be cautious of themselves. Some of them will have to evacuate where they live. And all these things are being done before we announce to the general public that we are going to spill, especially when we get to the maximum operating level. Okay, so it's a process.
All right.
And our expectation is that we'll follow through the process and then we'll follow it very well so that there wouldn't be any eventuality. It's just unfortunate that that internal memo leaked out to one media house and it is out. but I won't say it is wrong or it is right, because in the last 20, 25 years that I've been with Ghana Water Company, we have failed every year. And it is possible that this year we are going to fail as well.
All right, thank you very much. General Manager in charge of Public Affairs for the Ghana Water Company, Stanley Mate, as we observe International Water Day. Now, let me take you back to the northern region because my colleague, Martina Bugri, joins me via Zoom as we look at the situation in that region and how it's become extremely difficult for people there to have access to potable drinking water. Martina, you are back on the pulse. Yes, Martina, you're welcome to the pulse here on Joy News.
Thank you.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, Martina. So a while ago, we watched your report, and it's quite sad that you have people, struggling for space with animals to have access to water, which in itself does not even look good.
Yes, so that's the current situation in most communities in the northern region. And this particular water space that we visited is serving over 18 communities in between Tolong and then the northern region. And when you come to the Tamale town itself, they draw this water and bring it into town and sell it to homes. The gallon that we popularly call Kufuor gallon goes for 2 cedis. I mean, dirty water, but it's being sold. And the barrels they use for this oil barrels, 3 of them is 50 cedis. People have to rely on this water to be able to have their domestic activities complete. Community after community, you go through, their dams are dried up. And in some areas, over 3 months, 4 months, water have not flowed through their pipes. My neighborhood, for instance, for the past 2 months, we haven't had water. And it's getting extremely difficult for water tankers to even get clean water to supply communities. And so they are largely depending on these dams, which have become a space for both animals and just name it, any activity that people engage in. In this particular Kogolinga Dam, it's for irrigation. So you have farmers, they are using chemicals, putting the things back into the water. Fishermen are inside the water, and just name it. But people are relying on this type of water to survive.
So Martina, before you go on, just a quick question about that. So when they fetch the water from the dam, what do they do with it? Do they boil it before they use it?
So in the report, you heard Abdul say that when they just go, they pour it into their containers and then they begin to cook. They use it to wash bowls. Some drink it like that. So people do not treat this water. And he didn't even know that he could get some waterborne diseases if he drank this water that is not treated. And so that's the situation. Most people are just drinking the water. When you get to the river, the dam, the people just come and they fetch and start drinking. So it's really a very terrible situation as we speak now in the northern region. It is not only in Tamale, but if you go towards Yendi and other communities, it's just not a northern region thing. I would say that the north itself. Right. So Savannah, northern region, upper east, upper west, just name it. The water situation has become a dire situation.
I remember when Haruna Idrisu, the member of parliament for Tamale South, brought this to the attention of the speaker on the floor of parliament. The response from the Ministry of Works and Housing to him was that government was going to facilitate the deployment of some tankers to serve the Tamale community. I don't know whether after that, announcement on the floor, you've seen evidence of that in the metropolis.
If it's yet to start, I don't know, but I haven't seen any community yet where they are distributing water for free. Those I have seen are people who have purchased, they gather containers at a spot, contribute as a community, and then buy tanker, and then the tanker will come and distribute into their containers, and then they'll fetch home. That is what I have seen. But if they have begun deploying of tankers to supply water, I am not aware of that. And
then my final question before I let you go, you heard the general manager in charge of public relations for the Ghana Water Company. His response to me this afternoon is that they are having difficulties dealing with sun winners. The reason why some of their primary source for water is beginning to dry up. Is that the main issue?
Yes, so sand winning is a big issue in the Nawuni area. We agree, but that can solely not be the reason why for some communities over 4 months, 5 months, they haven't had water. So maybe the other challenges that is beyond the sand winning. I mean, you can't convince somebody who hasn't had water for the past 4 months that it is because of the sand winning that they are not getting water. What of other communities that once in a while get water? So maybe they may have to relook at the redistribution of water so that at least some communities can, even if it is once in every 1 or 2 months, I think people would appreciate.
Thank you very much. Martina Bugri is our Northern Regional Correspondent, giving us situational report on the water situation, especially in Tamale. Now, meanwhile, the Water Resources Commission is worried Ghana is witnessing a concerning drop in water quality attributed to land use activities, prompting urgent calls for collaborative action. Authorities are stressing the need to address destructive land practices to protect the nation's dwindling water resources. There's more in this report.
Human activities like illegal mining, fishing with harmful chemicals, and improper waste management are contributory factors to depreciation in water quality. Recent statistics reveal a significant decline in the quality of Ghana's water resources, depreciating from 86% to 58.8%. The Executive Director of Water Resource Commission, Dr. Bob Alpha, highlighted the reasons for this decline in water quality.
Ghana's water resources is actually going down in terms of the quality. We are having degradation of our water bodies due to land use activities as indicated in the morning. However, we also have some parts of Ghana where we have quite a lot of good water resources. If you look at the Volta Basin system, all the way from the northern part of Ghana to Akosombo Dam, the level of Galamsey activities there is very minimal. So for some areas, we have good water quality. In other areas, we have bad water quality. That's the situation now. In 2005, we were around 86. So we had very good water resources in terms of the percentage. Then Galamsey started, and then we started losing some of our rivers. The turbidity levels are very high. If we're able to fight Galamsey and waste disposals, I think we should be getting back to the same 86%. We are within the borderline. We are still a water-secure country. However, we are classified as a water-vulnerable country. We are very vulnerable when it comes to water resources. If we take the next steps to the left, then we will be going into a water-insecure country. That's where we are.
He gave possible solutions which could help curb the situation, mentioning that proactive measures aimed at reversing this trend must be pursued by stakeholders to ensure a sustainable future for all.
We have to collaborate with other agencies. So we collaborate with the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. We collaborate with the EPA and other agencies to work together towards, eliminating this Galamsey menace. But it will take a while. It is a very difficult fight. It started long ago, but we want everybody to be on board for the fight against Galamsey. Bad fishing methods, people using chemical, for instance, to fish. Waste disposal is one of our biggest challenge. We all know how we dispose of our solid waste. And when it rains, all that is washed into our rivers. So we are tackling the waste disposal issues with the assemblies, the fish farming also with the Ministry of Fisheries. Agriculture, farming along the river banks. When that happens, the fertilizer that we use can be washed into our rivers and lakes. So we are collaborating with all these agencies to ensure we minimize the impacts of all these activities.
World Water Day celebrates water and inspires action to tackle the global water crisis. A core focus of this day is to support the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goal 6, which is water and sanitation for all by 2030.
Now, let's wrap up on this water conversation as we celebrate the World Water Day. Let's have a conversation on the water sanitation situation across the country and how the gaps in the availability can be fixed. With me in the studio is Mr. Patrick Apoya, a member of the Coalition of NGOs in Water and Sanitation and WASH experts. Mr. Apoya, you're welcome.
Thank you.
So before we spoke to the Ghana Water Company, we had a report from Tamale.
Yeah.
And we followed it up with what really is happening.
Yeah.
You saw the fact that animals and humans struggling for water.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing this is not new in your area of expertise.
That's true. Well, it's not new, but the case of Tamale or Northern region as per se is pathetic. I started my career in Tamale, the Northern region. That was back in 1993-94. And it was exactly the same situation that we were fighting against, we were advocating, we were pushing for.
In 1994?
1994. That's when I started my career with the Minister of Health then. And it was the leading hub of guinea worm disease in Ghana. Now, the idea was to use water as the main intervention. This was exactly the same situation.
30 years after.
Yes, 30 years after, exactly the same situation. If you pull videos in those times, exactly the same thing. And you'd wonder, I mean, sometimes the problems that we are dealing with, sometimes it is either people just think they can cope, they have been coping, so let them cope. Or something else has to be done before the duty bearers can do something about it. If you look at, it's not as if we don't know what the cause is. We know the cause of the problem in Northern region. For the rural area, groundwater is the most preferred option for water supply to them. But with groundwater, once you drill your borehole and you can tap the water underground, it is very clean, except in a few cases where you may have some iron or fluoride contamination. But once you get it, it's very clean, and communities are able to manage it at very low cost of maintenance and whatever you can think of. Unfortunately, a large part of Northern region falls on a zone we call the horseshoe zone, which is a very difficult hydrogeological terrain that you can drill whatever, you will never get water on the ground.
Yeah.
So it is known that for these places, groundwater is not an option for them. But everybody is still fixed that, no, let's still try and see groundwater, whatever we can. These communities that you have seen, there's probably about 17 to 20 rounds of drilling in those communities, and still we couldn't get water. Now, does it mean that because you couldn't get water,
you should just leave them?
You should just leave it like that?
No.
No. The fact that your first option is groundwater and groundwater is not available, then there has to be an option two. Either you treat individual dams or you treat from the big rivers. The Oti River is there, the White Volta is there,
right.
Bupe Yapi. They are in the region. But just that cost, that extending water to these places will be so expensive. It's what is causing the problem that we are seeing today.
So there's actually lack of investment and planning
it's lack of
in addressing this matter.
In fact, I couldn't have put it better. Lack of belief that is a lack of appreciation that these communities are actually facing a problem. Because like they're already used to it. And unfortunately, those who are, the emergence of sachet water and bottled water has worsened the problem for them. Because people like you and them who have the capacity to talk and to voice out if you don't get water, for government to listen, you will simply just opt out for your bottled water. And only those who cannot afford are left. And their voices can never reach far. For those at that level, their voices don't go far. The Conowars tries to amplify their voices. We work with the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources, but they too have their limitations. I mean, they have even done a very good job to get it to where we are. It would have been worse than that. That is the situation that we are facing.
So in the last 30 years that you've witnessed this,
yes,
what has been the link between poor access to water and hygiene and the well-being of the people in the catchment area?
You can, at the end of it all, the proxy indicator for whether we're making progress in water or not is the health impact on yourself.
Right.
Then also the impact on your social and economic development. Now, if you look at the poverty trends in northern Ghana, overall Ghana, you see that it has come down. Of course, here it has come up a bit. But in northern, if you take those parts where water has been a crisis, the poverty situation has always been rising. I should have prepared the data for you to see. They have never experienced that poverty reduction or improvements in living standards that we have all enjoyed over the past 20 years. They have remained the same. And if you take the infant mortality trends, northern region continues to be at the bottom. If you take, let's say, child mortality rate, where a national average may be 50%, that means of every 1,000 children that are born, by their fifth birthday, you have at least 50 of them dying, 50 out of 100 dying. In Northern region,
and that's
you
50%.
have up to 80. Or, 80%. No, it's not 50%. It's like 50 out of 1,000.
Right.
Good. If you take Northern region, it could be as high as 70. What is the national average? So every indicator.
And the linkage here is to what?
It is because without water, it curtails your education because there's no teacher who will agree to stay in such a place. It curtails your ability to even get good medical professionals to stay in your community. And therefore, your medical situation is terrible.
And that obviously will affect your development.
It will development. And the water itself is infected. You definitely, in fact, the water that you see is heavily laden with a whole lot of bacteria, worms, and all forms of disease-causing agents. Now, people think that, they have been drinking it for the years.
And so it's acceptable.
It is not true, because if you go to those places and you take their child mortality rates, it is likely to double what everywhere else is experiencing. It is just because people probably have some, mystical conceptions about death. It's God that has given and it's God that has taken. And they just take it in good faith. Everybody is not looking at the water as the cause of their problems. But the fact that they are not linking it doesn't mean that, the government should just leave them aloof.
So this clearly cannot be a blame that we can put squarely on the head of Ghana Water Company.
No. Even for most of this, Ghana Water Company has very little to do with it because the structure of this water sector, Ghana Water Company is, when we say urban water, it's not even every urban area that they are responsible
Exactly.
for. They have about 85 towns that is in their hands. And those ones are like the regional capitals, mostly, and a few district capitals that are very viable commercially. That is what is in the hands of
community and water sanitation.
For the rural subsector, it is in the hands of the district assemblies with Community Water and Sanitation Agency as the facilitator. And because of the failure of that segment, where assemblies were supposed to be supporting communities to manage the systems, assemblies were also just, you just say that this is your responsibility, no resources to go with it. How do you expect the assembly to perform their mandate?
Nothing.
So they basically just wash off their hands. The assemblies are even still doing their best. Even the little IGF they raise, they're able to put something small, but it is nowhere near. And that's why now Community Water and Sanitation Agency is now transitioning to also become a rural utility.
Right.
So to be like the Ghana Water Company Limited in charge of rural areas. Then you can point at somebody and say, you have not been able to do your job in this area or in that area. But assemblies, where will you stand to go and accuse an assembly that you have failed?
Even for the IGF, for assemblies in such areas, I'm wondering how much they are able to generate.
It's pathetic.
To represent IGF.
Yes.
But Mr. Poya, let's come from the north and look at the national picture.
Yeah.
And whether or not we are improving in our water delivery from where you sit.
Yes.
Is it getting better? The Ghana Water Company, they have enumerated on countless occasions the challenges they are facing in bringing water to our homes. Where I live, I've relied on borehole for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And then, even in Cape Coast last month, they said they were going to cut production by 30% because of the impact of illegal mining and the rest.
Correct.
Nationally, what is the situation for you?
Okay, let's just look at the official statistics that is supported by Ghana Statistical Service and the international community, the Joint Monitoring Program. As we speak now, at least 86% of Ghanaians are supposed to be having access to a basic source of drinking water.
According to the Ghana Statistical Service.
Yes. Now, that access means that at least water that you will not travel more than 30 minutes in and out to fetch and drink. Either it is in your home, or even if you have to go out, you shouldn't spend more than 15 minutes in, 15 minutes out to drink. That's 85%. Given that that is the real situation, the 15% left, if you look at 15% of 31 million, which is maybe we are approaching 32 million now, that's a huge chunk of the people that don't have at all.
At all.
They don't even have what we call a basic access. That is already not good enough. If you go to urban area, they have even done some progress in the last 10 years. But for the rural area, 10 years ago, there were around 70%. Today, coverage. Today, they are around 72%.
Okay.
So in the last 10 years, just 4 percentage point movement.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the population is growing.
It's also growing. Population is growing more than that. Our 10 years growth is more. It's like 2 years population growth.
Right.
So you can imagine the situation in the rural area. And it's because of the way the rural area has been organized. You are saying communities should do their own thing without this necessary support for them. But even coming to the urban areas that we are talking about, that we say it is 96.4% of urban populations have access to a basic drinking water source. That access, between that, half of the year you won't get it. Right. But because officially you have it, it is counted that you have it. And remember that when we are counting access, it is not only what Ghana Water Company is providing that is counted. 50%, 53% of that 96% is sachet water and bottled water. Let's say half of that 50% is coming from Ghana Water. That they will take Ghana Water Company water
and then refine it, then
produce. That means if you were to remove 13% out of the 50, half of that 53%, Ghana Water Company would not be the 92% that we are talking about. Ghana Water Company is likely to be around the 80%. And for the last 10 years, we seem to just be around there.
We are not making any progress.
Yes. But it is understandable. You know, the Parity principle says that that last by 5% is more difficult than the 90% that you have covered.
And then they themselves have, I mean, this morning, the general manager said that, I mean, there are people even here in Greater Accra.
Yeah.
They've not even extended pipes to them. So for you, there's no way they can
but they count all of them as access, because in the urban area, if you don't buy sachet water, what will you do? You can't get water in, like what we have in Northern Region. They just don't exist. So you are counting me covered simply because I don't have an option. If there were to be an option of surface water, a lot of people in Accra would have been dependent on surface water.
But in terms of government investment, will you say that, I mean, you've read budgets every year, and the allocation to the sector. Will you say that government has been consistent in terms of meeting the public good as far as water provision is concerned?
No, I won't say so. Water until recently has never been a political issue. Unlike electricity, where you go to a community, they will say no electricity, no vote. No clinic, no vote. Water had not reached that extent. So the politicians' minds are those who can go on a strike and it can create political crisis for governments. So education will take 25% of, let's say, the budget.
Every year.
Every year. The water sector takes like 0.1% of the budget. But that 0.1%, if you look at it, it is more of the staff salaries, personal emoluments, goods and services. But when it comes to the services, investments is nothing. And it is a chronic problem. So it is not linked to this government is doing better than that government. It is because altogether, you know, politicians, the way where they get their dividends from, where you put your money and you can get the political dividends back. Because water is not that organized and you can have staff coming out to strike and to put pressure, it is easy to sacrifice.
Because people resort to their own means.
You just resort to your own means in your own ways. Whether you are dying in your skin, it's something difficult for any person to hear. You can sweat and die in your coat. Nobody will hear.
Right.
And that's the reason why the water sector, we need like $5 billion investments in the water sector per year.
Every year.
For the next 10 years before we can think of achieving our
Otherwise,
targets.
What do you expect
right now,
to see
we are
in
getting,
the next 10 years if this investment is not?
If it is not there, it will be like, it will take us, it will be like if you can construct yourself back to, let's say, the last 50 years. You'll be in that situation. The situation that we were when we were getting our independence from the white man would have been back in that situation. If you look at it in percentage-wise, the percent of people who had access to this, those who didn't have, the number of people who had, and those who didn't have, it will be like that in the next 10 years.
$5 billion will be practically
but that's
for government to raise.
No. If you take Ghana Water, for instance, they are difficult to get to financial sustainability because of legacy debts.
Right.
Debts that have accrued over the past 20 years. Somebody has to deal with it. So when I'm talking about the investments, it is because of the years of neglect of investments that has accumulated. Even the Ghana Water that we are complaining about, let's give them credit. But for the ingenuity of the engineers, you wouldn't have even had water to drink.
But again,
a lot of the systems that have been put there,
right,
over 60 years, 70 years, the companies have all dissolved. They don't exist again. For a part to even fix, it's not as if you can go and get it somewhere. It's the engineers who have to figure out how to fabricate and replace. So
that is how come, because they themselves, they've always emphasized the point that,
yes,
I mean, it's about time they replace all their machines.
Yes.
But where's
the investment?
Where's the investment? But there's also the other subject of the protection they get from the state.
Yes.
So that even as the state is not investing so much in water provision, the state should be able to protect themselves that the little that they have, they'll be able to use it and use it well. But here's the case that, to even treat raw water, because of activities of illegal mining and the others, the little that they have, they are pumping even more. And so they are left with no option than to take drastic actions that affect me eventually.
And that is where you also find it difficult to understand. Look, I agree that the Galamsey challenge is a huge one. But to now know that this water here is a security issue. It's like Akosombo. You cannot just say any person can walk to Akosombo Dam. There must be special security provisions to ensure that it is secured all the time. Some of the water systems that supply our cities, they have to have the same security status like Akosombo Dam.
Right.
To the extent that there is, if you cannot protect all the other water resources, Cape Coast, for instance, let me just use Cape Coast. Their water source for treatment. The machines were designed to treat water with turbidity levels of about 500 turbidity units. Now, as I speak today, the turbidity levels are 13,000. Just imagine
from 500 to 13,000.
500 to 13,000 turbidity units. How will a company manage? The company now will invest significantly 20 times more than they should have invested under normal circumstances. So the government, I agree with you, government, even if you are not giving them money, what can you do to protect them from incurring such
and that was my
losses?
Question. Because the effect of this is what they have said,
yes,
that they are cutting down production in the central region by 30%.
And that is the problem. Because of the cost of chemical, even the speed with which you can produce now will reduce. So it's not as if they have intentionally said we will cut. But there's no way the machines can process that volume of water given the turbidity. Right. And I agreed, I mean, government is doing its best. Maybe if government was not doing whatever they are doing now, maybe we wouldn't have even seen water running again. So let's not just look at it as if government is just asleep, they're not doing anything. But we should have been able to target certain water sources and say, as for this one, no-go area.
No-go area.
Even if it means putting a military camp there, because it is a security spot, we ought to do. But we are not seeing that yet.
Mr. Poya, before I let you go, your final words as we wrap up on the World Water.
Finally, I will say that citizens should recognize water as a critical foundation for their development. And whatever role we can play on our part, because there are also some behavior issues that we should also be addressing. Let's do that. Let's engage patiently with the authorities, and let's work together to fix the water problem. Without water, there can never be development for the community and for a nation. That's what I would say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Patrick Apoya, member of the NGO that is in this particular area, working to ensure that we have safe drinking water in our home.